Welcome to Star Nation Oracle, a monthly astrological update for the cosmically curious. You're here with me, Jenny McDaniel, past life specialist, and Sybil Starr, our veteran astrologer, for a glance into the future. You can find Sybil at sybilstar.com and our sponsor at leahmariemagic.com. Both websites, including my own, 5dpresents.com, will be in the show summary. Today, we'll be talking about Pisces and Aries, but the big energy is Saturn moving into Pisces and Pluto moving into Aquarius. So I'm going to hand it over to Sybil and we're going to dissect this and take a look.
All right. Well, hello, Jenny, and hello, everyone. Well, we've known, let's put it this way, shit was happening. Well, March is the month where everything shifts. This is a huge energy shift. Okay. We work with, let's say, 10 basic, what we call planets in astrology. And of those 10, 7 of them changes signs, and some changed signs twice. So it's like things are really moving. And of course, all of the planets are direct. We don't have a planet go retrograde. I think Mercury goes retrograde in April. And of course, that's short term. And then in May, Pluto turns direct. And then they all start kind of, turning retrograde again. So anyway, everything is moving forward. And so that's this. And it's a very exciting month. And it's like, what would you say? We're beginning a time, I would say, where the rubber meets the road. That's kind of, if you know what that means, is that things are getting real. Okay. Before I go on, any questions, Jenny? Anything you want to say?
Nope, but I am here for this rubber hitting the road.
Yeah. Okay. So first off, we start off with the sun in Pisces, which it will be there from, because this is the podcast for March, for the month of March, starting March 1st through March 31st. So the sun is in Pisces until March 20th. And of course, it is a very soft water sign. It's beautiful. It rules the waters of the world. It's the great cosmic sea, but the great cosmic, the sea can get rough. It's not always peaceful and calm, but it is very much the ruled by Neptune, which is the great cosmic sea, and that is the place where we allow our hearts to merge with all that is, and we remember that we have never left source, that we are having an experience of separation, and that we really are all one with source energy at our most core existence. Neptune and Pisces bring in unity consciousness, sharing a common goal. It's a very mystical, dreamy, and imaginative kind of an energy. Dreaming is very strong, both daydreaming and night dreaming, very sensitive and compassionate. Pisces is the final stage of the spiritual journey of the zodiac. It is the last sign, and it's where everything comes together. And one of the major teachings of this is it is the place where we learn to forgive, accept, and love unconditionally. It is a time for retreat and going within and listening to deep inner guidance. It's a time for creativity, dream work, being in nature, being in silence, surrendering to the mystery. And the shadow is very much the victim savior, that victim savior perpetrator axis. We can get caught up in it, playing all roles, but especially with Pisces, it would be the victim or the savior. So it's really important to remember that people have to have their own journeys. We can't save anyone. And that doesn't mean we can't care, be kind, empathetic, but, be there as a support person. Okay. It can be about escapism if things get too difficult, especially emotionally, and sometimes difficulty determining what is real and what is not. Okay. All right. So that's the energy we start with. But on March 1st, a very beautiful conjunction happens, and that is Venus conjunct Jupiter. And they're the two brightest lights in the sky. And, I don't know how close they will be. This conjunction happens every year. And in Aries every 12 years. So it's not a, it doesn't happen all the time, but but Jupiter and Venus in Aries conjunction happens every 12 years. That's the best way to say it. All right. But last year when they came together in Pisces, I think they were so close, they looked like one star. And so I don't know how close they'll be, but it should be a beautiful light. We've been seeing them in the sky coming together and coming together closer and closer. Well, they'll be very close from our perspective here on Earth. And it's the greater and lesser benefic, which brings blessings and good fortune. And in Aries, it's about self-initiative. I feel like it's taking steps towards what you want. It's claiming what you want in your life that serves your highest good. It's like, go for it. If something is in your world, it's like the door says open and go for it, but it does need to be in your highest good. Sometimes our ego desires are not. But anyway, it's making a wish and setting a prayer in motion is how I would say it. But it's a really beautiful aspect. Venus also changes signs on March 16th, where she moves from Aries into Taurus. And Venus rules Taurus, and so it's very sensual. It's about feeding the senses, loves music. There can be a focus on our finances as well as security and safety. One of the shadows of Taurus is possessiveness and stubbornness, and Venus is conjunct Uranus on March 30th. So we could anticipate some unexpected turn of events in our relationships, our finances at that time, because Uranus pushes us out of our comfort zone, and Taurus likes comfort. That's one of the signs. So it can be kind of a challenge there. All right. Anyway, so that would be the challenge. All right. Mercury also changes signs twice this month. Actually is in three different signs. Mercury starts off in Aquarius, where it likes to be, and it is conjunct Saturn in late Aquarius, which I feel like that is saying it can be a very visionary time, but with practical solutions. Mercury in Aquarius can see the future, and Saturn kind of shows us how to create it. So, but then very quickly, Mercury goes into Pisces on March 2nd, which is dreamy and imaginative, a very creative sign. And it will be there. Oh gosh, I didn't look at that. Look at that date. Let me look at that real quick. Okay, Mercury is in Pisces from March 2nd until, let me look at that. Looks like it's, oh, there it is, March 19th. Okay. All right. And so Pisces, once again, very dreamy, imaginative, very creative sign, but then moves into Aries on March 19th, which Aries is very direct. And of course, Mercury is about our communication, about our mind. And Mercury and Aries, it's say what you mean and mean what you say. I find Mercury and Aries often very refreshing, as there are no mind games. It's kind of this, what you see is what you get. And that's really nice, but can be argumentative because, the god of war does rule Aries. All right. Now we're getting into some of the stuff that is really the big changes. Before I move on, do you have anything you want to comment on or say, Jenny?
Just that my Mercury is in Aries, and I find myself to be very direct and find others who are direct refreshing as well. You don't have to read between the lines. You don't have to bend over backwards. No mental gymnastics. Say what you mean what you say. I can dig it.
Exactly. Yeah. I like that. I've been involved with, I've had many relationships where that was not the case. And I got tired of having to do that. Like, what the hell did they mean? Anyway. All right, sorry for the cussing. I shouldn't be doing that.
Oh, it's fun.
Okay. Anyway, all right. So we go into the next thing we're going to talk about is the full moon in Virgo. And, Pisces and Virgo are usually kind of soft energy, kind of service-oriented energy. What time is that? That full moon is on March 7th at, what would that be? 4:42 a.m. Pacific time. All right, just so you know. And it's at 17 degrees of Virgo. The moon is at 17 degrees of Virgo, opposite the sun at 17 degrees of Pisces. And this energy just on its own would be very much about the practical mystic, idealism versus realism, or idealism and realism integrated. It embodies spirituality, and of course it does bring in the victim savior axis. Okay. I forgot I wanted to share the Sabian symbol with this, but anyway, so let me, so this full moon, like I said, normally we would just be talking kind of about, like I said, the practical mystic, but it is square Mars in Gemini. And you know, Mars has been in Gemini for 7 months. It's getting ready to move out at the end of the month into Cancer. But as it's moving into these later degrees, I feel like we're getting like the last major teachings. And I don't know if you and your audience are aware of this, if you're paying attention to current events, but you know, they are beating the drums of war, you know, with Russia right now, who is aligning with China. And, you know, Mars and Gemini, it can be a war of words, but we also know Mars is a catalyst to make things happen. And, you know, from my understanding, from different, you know, sources who talk of, you know, who have, I guess, deeper information, say, you know, the decision has been made that there is going to be a war. And I don't know that that's true, but I do hear the words of war. I do see them beating the, like I said, the drum to go to war, and kind of making the case for it, okay, with Ukraine being the entry point. And of course, we know a nuclear war would be devastating for everyone, including Mother Earth. And what makes me the, one other thing is Mars also asks us to have courage to walk through our fears and to confront them. So Mars is in a square, and a square is dynamic, it's action, it's a catalyst. And so this is the Sabian symbol for this degree of the zodiac. A volcanic eruption bringing dust clouds, flowing lava, and earth rumblings. So, you know, for one thing, you know, so on a collective level, I think we just simply need to be aware of what is going on, because it's kind of like everything else would, you know, this would be existential if this were to come to pass. And so being really aware of what's happening is important, okay? And but it's also trine Uranus. And so I feel like this is another indicator that is saying that we can impact this with our own consciousness, stay calm and centered within ourselves, pray and work in the quantum field and with each other, because we know that is where everything takes place. Okay, and there's some more I'm going to be talking about this. So this is just kind of the first piece of it. But I feel like in the month of March, some energy shifts are happening, and it's really important to be able to follow them and be aware of what is happening. All right. So then on that same day, Saturn moves into Pisces, and Saturn stays in a sign for 2.5 years. And so it will be in Pisces for 2.5 years. But we do start the month with Saturn at 29 degrees of Aquarius. And Aquarius, and 29 degrees of any sign is called an anaretic degree. And the anaretic degree of any sign is what's called like the last chance saloon. And it's like if the work hasn't been done, it forces it, pushes it to the absolute limit, and a crisis ensues. Now, I don't know that I do, you know, Pluto is going back and forth over this degree, okay, over the next 3 years. Saturn is just making this one expression of it, but it's also so close to moving into Pisces that it feels like it's also losing some of its energy, okay? Anyway, but to just know, I feel like the teaching around what we've been learning over the last 2.5 years with Saturn in Aquarius, to me, has shown up as Saturn is always about personal authority. And Aquarius asks us to be true to ourselves. So I feel like some of the major teachings that I can now see in hindsight, especially, is that it's about being true to ourselves in the midst of pressure to comply with the majority of society. How do we hold that pillar of truth within ourselves, which is our truth, in the midst of so much pressure to be what others want us to be. Okay, on many levels, and we see it societal, we see it with, everywhere. This was one of the big teachings, I feel, okay, as well as many others. But anyway, so now we're moving into Saturn in Pisces, and so wherever Saturn is always our work. And in Saturn and in Pisces, it's very much about inner work that needs to be done. Is taking us within. What was it I read recently? It's the voyage to our inner selves. Okay, because a collective shift is coming. But each one of us need to do our own work to be able to make that collective shift. Okay. I feel like there's a piece here about a commitment to a spiritual practice that will sustain us through these changing times. And of course, working in the quantum field for manifestation. Now, one of the other things that is so important, because Pisces, is the last water sign, and Neptune, its ruler, is also transiting through Pisces and has been there and is going into in the next 2 years will go into the last degrees of Pisces, into the anaretic degrees of Pisces. And so I feel like what is coming up is about the water, water being so important, prayers for the water. The water needs to be cleaned up. We've got toxic water. And also, water has memory, praying in the water, praying for the water, praying, water carries sound. And so when you pray in the water, it carries the vibration of the sound all over, all through the water. Okay, so that's another way to heal the water, but it's cleaning up the water. And there's a new study. Well, it's a study that has been done that is now going to be shared as a governmental study on the fluoride in the water. And these governmental studies, because there's so many people suing now because there's so much evidence that fluoride is so dangerous. One, it doesn't really, what these studies show is it doesn't really impact our dentation all that much. That this was actually an agreement between the mining companies and their, leftover, I don't know, what do you call it? What they didn't use with our health system, because I guess there was some study that showed that it helps our dentation, but how dangerous it is. It's impacting IQs, especially of children, of mothers who drink fluoridated water. It impacts our thyroid. How many people have thyroid issues? I mean, my God, everybody that I know just about has thyroid issues of a certain age, put it that way. And it's also, calcifies our pineal gland, which is our connection to source. And, fortunately, I live in an area that is not fluoridated. People chose it. People, I think, are coming to understand that this is not a good thing for us. But the government apparently has studies, and they're being forced to share them. So we'll see if it happens. But these studies are coming out. The other thing that was said in this study is that it isn't just drinking water, it's showering. And so if you do have in an area where your water is fluoridated, it's really important to get a filter on your shower. But I feel like there's so many other issues, toxins in our water that we're going to be really looking at. And and of course, the big incident there in East Palestine, not only in the air, but in the water. What is it? A river that impacts 25 million people has been impacted by this vinyl chloride. And, and nobody, not only are they not even interested in cleaning, but they did clean it up with, that's what the fire was about, so that the trains could run again. But the people, and the people there that are taking in these toxins, anyway. And then the last I wanted to talk about with the water is the importance of structured water. Okay. As we're finding out, natural water that has never been treated of any kind, like comes from a well or comes from spring water, that the structure of the water actually is a different consistency in our body. It's more viscous, and treated water is, not viscous, and so it impacts our bodies in a different way. So anyway, it's so important to drink pure structured water. And of course, there's so many. I also just recently heard that someone talk about how there's so much new technology going to be coming through using water, but it has to be pure water, whether it's, so we really need to clean up our water. Okay. So, and then one more thing about structured water is, you can get structured water through, spring water, through well water. And many stores carry it, but I've also discovered some technology that says it restructures the water. So I have a water purifier that's really good, and then I have these products, and I think they come from Germany, and I need to remember their name to share with you, but they say they restructure the water, and I use that a lot. Anyway, and then of course the last thing with Saturn here is, well, almost the last thing, is whatever Saturn is transiting, it brings into our awareness latent health issues. Okay. And in Pisces is about the immune system. And I'm not saying that someone thought I said Saturn was causing this. No, it's more like the finger pointing to the moon, saying this is what's happening. Okay. Pisces is the autoimmune disorders, cancers, especially of the immune system, and it's all related to the toxicity in our environment and what we're putting in our bodies. So it's really important to be aware of that and how to clean up, how to detoxify. Detoxification will be a big part of the of coming up, not only physically but also emotionally, psychically, all the different ways. And the last thing with Saturn is about consensus reality, and in what we all agree upon is true. And in Aquarius, when Saturn was traveling in Aquarius and square Uranus, it had, I don't know, something like 7 squares over a period of 2 years. It was about really changing our understanding or our consensus reality. And I feel like one of the things that is saying to me is that the edges of reality are softening, with other dimensions blending into this reality. Okay, so before I go on, Jenny, you have any comments or questions?
I don't.
Okay, all right. So anyway, but this is going to be going on over 2.5 years. It just simply begins in March, and we'll just watch it. We'll just not watch it. We will just see how it unfolds and how it flows. Okay, because Pisces is all about flow and following the flow as well, and Saturn is sometimes the obstacles in that flow. So that's also bringing that into our awareness so that we can flow around obstacles and not through them. Okay. All right. Now we have the spring equinox, which is happening on March 20th. That is a time when light and dark are equal, but the light is growing. And the very next day, we have the Aries new moon. Let me see, what time is that new moon? I forgot to put that in here. Okay, it's on March 21st. Let's see here. The time of that is 10:24 a.m. and that's Pacific time. The times I give are Pacific. Okay, just so you know. All right. And so anyway, the new moon is actually at 0 point Aries. Once again, it's at 0 Aries. Let me look at that again. It's at 0 Aries, 50 minutes. Okay. And so it's almost 1 degree. And I love the same, it's Aries point is the beginning of all things. It's the beginning of the zodiac. And we've had this degree, what did we have here? We had I think, I can't remember, but we've had several different transits that have impact. Oh, I know what it was. It was Jupiter was on this point at the winter solstice. Okay, so that was, so there's been several times this year that this has been activated, and it's the beginning of all things. Okay, and the Sabian symbol for this is a woman has risen out of the ocean, and a seal is embracing her. And of course, Aries is about individuation, and it rises out of the great cosmic sea where we are all one, the last sign, which is Pisces. Aries arises out of Pisces, out of the ocean, okay? And so it's about rising out of the great cosmic sea where we are all one into our hero's journey, our process of individuation. And I feel like the seal is saying that nature greets us and let us know we are loved as we begin another, the beginning of this journey, okay, here on Mother Earth. So it's a really important degree. This new moon has a 5-degree out of sign conjunction with Neptune. Neptune is at 25 of Pisces. But so it's still, so even though they're out of sign, they would still be considered a conjunction. So I feel like what this is saying is to remind us that we are still connected to the great cosmic sea of all that is, that we are never alone, that we can ask for help. It's kind of like at that point where we are the wave, but we were also aware that we are still the ocean, that we are both. Okay, but to know as we move through these challenging times that we are never alone, we can always ask for help. Now, this new moon in Aries is also square Mars in Gemini. Mars is at 28 degrees of Gemini, so it's once again an out of sign square, but it's just 2 degrees off. So I feel like Mars in Gemini is giving us some really big teachings before it leaves this sign where it has been for 7 months due to its retrograde motion. Okay. What I had forgotten to say at the full moon is also true at the new moon. There are some stars in the system of Orion that were they had there was a history of the Orion Wars, which was very similar to not similar. They say that the Star Wars movies was based on the Orion Wars, which lasted for millions of years, and we are feeling the echoes of that here. So there is a star in Orion, one that was conjunct Mars, 21 degrees of Gemini at the full moon, which was Bellatrix, and the one that is conjunct this square this new moon called Betelgeuse. They were both known for having psychic warfare and mind control. And I just feel like it was important to bring that in, to know this is absolutely happening. And of course, Mars is also square Neptune. And Mars square Neptune is absolutely can bring in illusion, delusion, and especially, the what was that I was reading? About the I can't think of the right word anyway. Something about the red herring, kind of being thrown off track. That there's a lot of untruths in the field, and to know that it is being used for psychic warfare and mind control. Okay, so anyway, but back to Mars. As a catalyst for change, he's a god of war with words, and we know that if you start really paying attention and following what's happening, this is I feel like where we are being led. Okay, and so, but we are also Mars also asks us. Of course, we don't have to follow that lead. And we are at a time where we must confront our fears. Mars is always all about courage, that we must have the courage to confront our fears and to realize that the external world is actually reflecting them back to us. So we must confront them and remember that we can ask for help. The invisible realms are here to help us. The angels, the star beings, the nature devas, our guides, all the star nations, they know we are trying to make this shift in consciousness. And this is one of the obstacles. It's kind of like that we are coming up against now is that, the old power is returning to the old ways, the old war. But to know that the whole universe is here to help us as we move through this turbulent and uncharted territory. And to trust the process and follow the flow. And one of the big questions really in this time of huge divisiveness is, can we come together in unity consciousness? Can we put our differences aside? You know, identity politics are not worth fighting for any longer. We are actually going to be faced with an existential crisis. But when we come together and meet it with love, this is the new quantum field. We can raise the vibration. So those in charge no longer see it, war as a viable option. You know, these are the teachings. This is how we're making the shift. Okay. And to know this is happening. All right. Before I move on, any questions, Jenny?
No.
Okay. All right. All right. So we have then we have another huge shift. Pluto is moving out of Aquarius, out of Capricorn, where he's been for the last like 18 years, or maybe longer than that. Maybe I can't remember how long. Anyway, maybe 15 years. When did Pluto move into Capricorn? Let me just look that up real quickly here. It looks like it's around 2008, maybe, when it first moved in. So, and what is this? 2023. What
like 25 years, or what is it? 15. 15.
Yeah, so 15 years. Okay, so yeah. And but his march into Aquarius is actually taking place over several years, because he's going back and forth. He's going into the early degrees of Aquarius, back into Capricorn, early degrees of Aquarius, back into Capricorn, until late 2024 when he moves in there completely. Okay, but it's going to move into Aquarius for 2.5 months. And to know that from March 23rd until, let's see, when does he move back? Looks like, okay, there it is, June 11th. Okay, so from March 23rd to June 11th. Okay, so it's putting his toe into Aquarius. But most of March, Pluto is at the 29 degrees of Capricorn, which is that anaretic degree. And I feel like this is a really big teaching, since this is taking several years to go over this degree. You know, it's about becoming a master of this energy. Okay. And before we move on. And of course, it's also still in orb of the Pluto return in the chart of the US. That's happening over several years as well. And Pluto always brings a death and rebirth process. But of course, part of that is, you know, bringing light to the darkness, bringing corruption to light. And of course, one of the areas is our institutions, that are all of our institutions that hold up our culture, you know, our government, our banking, our healthcare system, not healthcare providers as much, but healthcare system, all of the systems, you know, what they call the bones, the media, corporate America, all these different things. Okay. But Pluto wants complete honesty, you know, and often, you know, we have to be honest with ourselves. That's always where Pluto brings the first truth, is to be honest with ourselves. And the more honest with ourselves we are, we can see through the illusion to what is true in the external world, because remember, the external world is a reflection of our inner world. And I really feel like we really see that more personally in our field, but then collectively we also see it. And that's what we're seeing, is the collective reflection. Okay. But the thing is, when we know what is true, we can then make choices that are in our highest good. Okay. We can make different choices. And as Pluto moves into Aquarius, you know, Aquarius is the sign of the people. And Pluto is all about power, you know, empowerment. And I feel like this is very much about, you know, the power of the people coming into itself. And that the people are awakening to what is true. And, you know, revolution is in the air, but I do feel like, you know, it's a revolution of consciousness. Now, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was the French Revolution. And, you know, it had mixed results. Let's put it that way. It accomplished what it needed to accomplish, but in a very bloody way. But I feel like we are in a place where we can make choices for this to be a revolution without blood, a revolution of consciousness where we really shift and change the reality that we are living in. Like I said, around the war, coming together to meet the energy, to put love into the field, to meet it. Now, there's many other, there's many ways to approach this, okay? But this is absolutely one of the really big pieces, is meeting it on a spiritual level, okay, and in the quantum field, because we know that's where manifestation and creation actually happen. Because the other thing that happened when Pluto was in Aquarius was when the Constitution of the United States was being written, or was written and was shared and was ratified. It was when it was ratified. And our Constitution is a very powerful tool, and I think it's really important for each of us to come into to read it, to know what it says, okay? But I do believe the most important thing is the revolution in consciousness, and it is the power of group consciousness working together to create change. But the thing is, people need to do their own spiritual work, and we need to have like-minded people, because when we come in groups, we always revert to the lowest common denominator. So to really make the change, it's so important to work with like-minded people, okay? We also know that this is the power of energy. Aquarius, is energy lines. It comes, some say water and some say energy, and I think it's both, but for good or ill. I feel like one of the pieces of the revolution in consciousness is the development of our own soft technology, our own psychic skills, our innate skills, and especially, let's say, if we're in a place where we can, deal with the fluoride, to get it out of our there are techniques to get the fluoride out of our pineal gland, as well as the hard technology that can actually serve our spiritual evolution. Pluto was all about evolution, okay? And but the shadow is, of course, that same technology can be used to harm us and upend our spiritual evolution. Okay, we know we're hearing about all of the different AI stuff that we can't let our technology get ahead of our humanity. And that that is the key to be aware and a conscious awareness of how we use technology. Okay, so it is our relationship with technology will come into the forefront over the next 20 years, because Pluto will be in Aquarius for 20 years. Okay, so big changes coming over the next several years, and this is the acceleration point. Okay, now we also have one more thing, and that is Mars is moving into Cancer on March 25th, after being in Gemini for 7 months. And Gemini, is a sign that is, it's very vocal. It's about communication. It is very busy. They can say chronic busyness. It is multitasking, all of those different things. But moving into Cancer is more into the emotional field. Okay. So Mars in Cancer brings in a really strong intuition. And Mars is about movement, and we can be moved to take action to bring peace or comfort and safety to our lives during this period. With what we're talking about, it can really be used to be aware of what's happening so that we can provide for our own safety. Now, it's only in here for 2 months, so it's not like it's forever. So this is 2-month period. It is a time where we go to bat for our loved ones. In fact, we can be fiercely protective. Inner satisfaction and love are generally more important than outer achievement. Personal and domestic goals are our priority during this phase. Now, the more shadow side of Mars in Cancer is that it is very instinctive as well as intuitive, and we can sometimes become defensive, put it that way. We can take what feels like slights personally, and it can cause arguments and anger, and it's important to not take anything personally. Okay, that a lot of people's stuff is activated, especially if their security and their safety feels like it. So it's really important to stay centered within your own self and know that everyone kind of responds to the world or reacts to the world from their own perception of the world. Cancer has a tendency to be more passive aggressive, to hold it in and to not just be, something's wrong, but you don't know quite what, with your friend or your partner or whatever. Anyway, can also defend loved ones fiercely. Cancer is the mother who defends her children even when they know they are wrong. And, we have a Cancer son here in the United States, and there can be a tendency here to defend those we want to believe in, even when we know they're wrong. And, it's really important. Pluto, Mars is going to be opposing Pluto as it moves through Cancer. So it's so important to be able, we can still love someone, but to also say, this isn't right, this is wrong, let's say on a more collective level, but also in our personal lives as well. So anyway, I just see March as an acceleration point. Things are shifting. And energy's moving.
I love it.
So any comments or questions, Jenny?
Nope. Wonderful. I'm looking forward to all this movement. And as usual, it's been a fantastic show. Is there anything else you'd like to add? And if not, would you tell everyone how they can get a hold of you?
Yes, I guess I would like to tell everyone about my galactic astrology readings that I'm doing now. They're just going super well. And I'm soon going to be posting videos of those readings. I have some people that say they're happy to do that. And so you can see what they are about, because it's a whole new level and perception of self-discovery, self-understanding, our soul mission as we connect to the star nations, as we use our it's like starseed astrology. So if you go to my website, sybylstar.com, and I've got a whole page about my galactic astrology, and you can follow me on YouTube. I have videos. I do weekly and monthly or new moon videos, and I'm getting ready to have some more offerings there. And if you would like a reading, you contact me on my website.
Thank you. And our graceful sponsor is Leah Marie Magic, and you can find her at leahmariemagic.com. And I have a new endeavor as well. You can find healingevents.org on the web, and it will show that myself and 2 other local healers here in New Mexico are doing gatherings, retreats, events, classes, and we're talking about aliens and psychics and breath work. So it's going to be fun and exciting. And if it all goes well, we might be coming to a state near you. So go ahead and find us at healingevents.org. And we appreciate you all. And until next time.